You want to do it? Want to do something?
So she doesn't. Well, she doesn't need to do anything. Thank you.
Okay, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first thing that I need is a motion to approve the agenda. If there's no changes,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. And then same thing for the consent agenda. If there's no questions or comments.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, the motion to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? None. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to public comments. If we have one person signed up, Luther
Me.
Jones.
Well, I can say everything I want to do here.
Okay,
First of all, I think it's great that we're going ahead with the bathroom trip. I think it's an excellent site for it. I like the design. The bathrooms were proposed a number of years ago, and I'm glad to see it finally happening now. And I appreciate your efforts on that. I really do. I do have a question. If, as a member of the public, where can I view the plans for that, the architectural plans? I would like to take a look at. So that's something we might want to, I don't know where we put it. We've all seen the architectural renderings that are put in the paper. That's all we've really seen. Secondly, this changing subject here. Do we know what the plans are for Bryson Park once we get on the street and different curve roads stabilized? I've had some people that are asking me, I don't know what the plans are for Bryson Park. Maybe that's something that the council needs to look at and possibly make a statement on. That's it.
okay. Thank you for your public comments. We typically don't have discussion back and forth during public comments, but during my mayor's report, I can answer some of your questions. Is that it for public comments? That's everybody. Okay, mayor's report. So I'll go ahead and answer your question for you. So you haven't seen the final plans for the depot bathroom yet because we don't have, I think they're 90%, so they're not completed yet. When they are complete, I'm guessing we'll put them on the website, and then will the board even need to approve them?
The board won't need to approve
We
them.
won't need to approve it.
We can
so,
put them on the website. We'll have a full size set up on here.
Yeah, so
Or once they're complete, we can email them out.
the concept plans that you've already seen are the plans that we have at this point, pending the final plans. The plans for Bryson Park are in way less of a complete state than that is. We have had a public hearing. We had a public hearing or public comment period on the park already. I guess we'll have another one before we approve the final plans for that, but that is still very much in its infancy. Moving on with the rest of my mayor's report, the only thing I have, and it's a request that the botanical survey from Equinox just be put on the website somewhere. Maybe it is, I just couldn't find it, but I don't think it is, but that way the public can do it. That's all I have. We'll do commissioner reports and start down there with you.
I just wanted to bring us all an awareness of the July 27th Sylva Herald. There's a really great article about Jackson paper that Jason Gregory, who is the fellow that many of us grew up with, wrote a book, which is going to be presented tonight at the Jackson County Library at 6:30. I'm hoping to make it when we get out of this efficient meeting. I'm hoping to go support Jason on his endeavor of 120 years of industry that has employed a lot of people in Sylva. And I want to just bring a couple of things up in case you don't get to read the article. Gregory's grandparents worked there since 1902. He has written in this book about the history of the pulpwood and how that has been an industry leader in our business world in Sylva. He goes over an environmental piece that I just want to read to everybody because I think that's a hot topic that comes up every few years in the town of Sylva is the pollution of Jackson paper. So this is what Gregory says. Now is perhaps a good time to clear up a lot of misunderstandings about our mill in regard to pollution. People drive by each day and mistake our boiler stack as emitting smoke. It's actually steam. We operate in a manner that respects the environment. Unlike the Mead Corporation, whose boilers burned pulverized coal and dumped fluid into Scotts Creek, we operate in a manner that respects the environment. At Jackson Paper, we work hard to protect our natural resources and safeguard them for future generations. We invest significantly in facility and machine upgrades at the mill. We have systems in place that meet or exceed air and water quality regulations. Unlike most paper mills, we fire our boiler with waste wood, not fossil fuels. The boiler generates steam that powers the paper making machinery and heats the plant. A pollution control scrubber prevents the wood ash from ever leaving the boiler. Our closed loop water system and treatment facility allows us to reuse large quantities of water needed to make paper. The result is zero discharge of processed water into our sewers or waterways. We are the largest manufacturer of 100% recycled paper in North Carolina. To produce our paper, we divert approximately 120,000 tons of old corrugated containers, also known as cardboard, from our landfills each year. The point is that we care about the environment just as much as everyone else in this room does. And they work and they play here. They're hunters, they're fishermen, they are our community members. They fish in Scotts Creek below and above the mill. And they believe that it remains clear and healthy and that they want to protect the environment just as much as everybody else. So I'm sure that Gregory has more to say about this, and I encourage all of us to inform ourselves so that we can inform the citizens that Jackson Paper is doing a good job of keeping our environment safe. And I hope to go tonight so I can report more to you. The article ends, I think this is really beautiful. May this work reflect the great work done by the hardworking mountain people. So I think we should all be really pleased that we have this private employer in the town of Sylva, and we should make sure that we understand what's going on so that we can support. That's all I have.
Right, thank you.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, Ben is not here, but he gave me something to read. Good evening. First, I want to thank the mayor for reading my commissioner report for me. You're welcome. Unfortunately, I am unable to be at the meeting due to the fact that I've contracted the latest strain of COVID. I picked it up while on vacation and I am doing well, but I'm not interested in exposing any of the board members, staff, or public to the virus because it's miserable. So just a reminder that COVID is still active and there are increasing cases across North Carolina, as well as increasing cases here in Jackson County. It is causing much less morbidity than previous strains. The current variant is the EG5, which is another strain of Omicron. I would encourage folks to continue to be vigilant if you're around someone who is sick. It's worth keeping some distance and wearing a mask in order to stop the spread. Maybe even stop the spread. High-risk individuals are still vulnerable to more serious infections. And another note, I wanted to give a shout out to some of the active citizens of Sylva who went to the Jackson County Board of Commissioners last week to show their support for a mental health and substance abuse treatment center that is still in the early stages of feasibility for Jackson County. And finally, I wanted to thank town staff for all the work that they have put into making the long-term lease for the new public restroom site at the railroad. Also, thanks to Odell, who has come up with a great design. I'm unable to vote due to my absence, but I give my full support for the long-term lease with the railroad. I look forward to seeing everyone in a couple of weeks for our next meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing to report except we did talk about last meeting feasibility for a study of the neighborhood there about what they wanted to see at Bryson Park. So we have a survey out that's one of our interns is working on, I understand. So like from that feedback, I think we'll start to develop the plans for the park. That's all I have.
I have nothing to report this evening.
close out commissioners' reports, and we'll move on to managers' report.
I just have a few things. So the contractor is still on track with the progress on Allen Street. The engineers anticipate the south wall being completed in a couple of weeks, and they'll begin on the Bryson Park wall in September. Storm drainage was installed last week, and you've noticed the consent agenda had a $4,000 change order for the project. That's for an additional storm drop inlet. So work is still expected to be completed in November to December timeframe, and then we can begin on the playground. Employment office updates. Officer Tanya Giordano was sworn in on Tuesday, and James Lewis accepted the firefighter position and will begin August the 25th. He has 7 years experience in Eastern North Carolina and already holds the necessary firefighter certifications. So welcome to both of them. That's all I have tonight.
Questions from the board? Okay, next page. Okay, on to new business, Swatco's public restroom. You all had that lease in your agenda packet, $10,000 for 99 years, I believe it is.
Yes.
The space shown in the survey at the bottom. And is this, you need a motion to approve the lease or authorize you to sign it, or what are you looking?
The motion would be for the board to approve the lease and authorize you to sign it.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on that, please?
A question would be, do we have? I heard you say earlier that the plans are still, 90% is a long ways, but do we feel very comfortable with overall feasibility? Like there's not going to be any surprises if we sign the lease after you felt really, really good about that, as opposed to.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, how
I'm
much?
looking to hold it up, just saying like.
I know we have looked into relocating the overhead utilities,
Right.
but I don't know about underground, like water sewer hookup, how investigated is that?
So that goes through Allen Street. So I mean, I feel fairly confident with what's in the section of what's in the survey that we're leasing. You want to comment on that?
Well, we're kind of like, can't do anything without the lease. So we need to get them to sign it before we can get in there. So if something revealed at that point, then. Yeah, that's all right.
Start for it.
Yeah.
Start for the repair.
Yeah. So. And we, because we don't know, we can't really do a whole lot of stuff in there. The overhead power line was the big first like expense that we ran into right now. I think that Brian, kind of charges ridiculous amount of that. Where I don't, Jake would probably be the one to know, but
Right. I think the relocation estimate was $50,000, but that's pretty much what we've calculated into part of the construction cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we debated where to put this, I think we decided on this spot knowing that there was an amount of risk that came with it. And yeah, when we start constructing or get to the final plans, it might turn out to be more expensive than we expected, but we did commit to it, I guess, with that understanding. We could always back out if those surprises became.
Right. Then we're out the $10,000 for the lease.
We would be out the $10,000.
And I mean, this is an estimate. This is not like a contract price. We're going into this knowing that we're going to need to amend this budget for more money.
Right, we haven't did it yet. So, yeah, there's a level of risk to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like the water and the overhead electric has been vetted. I mean, the only other surprises are really the slab. I think we've counted on having to
Remove
remove
that.
that slab anyway, so I don't know what else really would come up. Besides that, water and sewer hookup probably, but that should be pretty straightforward. Usually is. So what would happen, Eric, if the ownership of the railroad changed hands? This lease would carry over with that.
right, so we're gonna, as soon as we get it signed and notarized, all parties, then we will record it in register of deeds. And anybody that buys the railroad is buying it subject to that lease, knowing that they won't have use of that property for 99 years.
And the only way they can terminate that lease, they can't just terminate it at will. We have to be negligent. in one of the things.
Yeah, and then so they try to declare terminated. That would obviously be lawsuit. But in the event that happens, and we can technically work with him there.
It's obviously a
With
generous
very
lease
over-
amount over 99 years. It's just still $10,000. So I was just trying to get a feel for
Yeah.
where we are when establishing or confirming feasibility that it's $10,000. But it sounds like we're, pretty much there.
Yeah, I think at 90% plans, I think we would know if there was something.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Any other questions on the lease? Okay. Where are we gonna pull that 10,000 from? The budget for the bathroom, I guess?
Right, that'll come out of contingency for, well, actually, what was approved in the consent agenda takes 10,000 from contingency. And has a line item for lease, I think.
Okay, that comes.
I mean, of course, if you don't approve the lease, then that doesn't happen.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 100 or 99-year lease for $10,000. David to sign.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your hand, and say aye. Okay, none opposed. Motion carries unanimously. And next on the new business list is a taxi ordinance discussion.
Yes, okay, so I need direction from the board on what to do here. So we're still going through our ordinance recodification with Municode, which towns do every 10 years. So we're hoping to wrap this up in the next few months. And when Eric, Amanda, and I met with an attorney from Municode, and they asked us if we wanted to keep this taxi cab ordinance in our recodification process. We can, when we do this, we readopt all our ordinances at once every 10 years, and they go through, check the state law references, and make sure any amendments the town has passed during that decade have been included. So taxis within the last 10 years, pretty much all over have become obsolete because of Uber and Lyft and other ride shares. We still have one operating in Sylva, but they're not active right now. Their license is still good. If the board is, I want to know whether you all are okay with eliminating this ordinance, and then we would just go with the state law, or if you want to leave it in there. We pay per page based off of what's printed in the code book and the size of our ordinances that are put on the website. But if you want, so I mean, we have the ordinance already. So if you want to keep that, we can. But if you want to eliminate it, this is probably a good time to do it. So I wanted to get direction from you all. And John is here to ask or to answer any questions that you all have about the ordinance and the process, because it's mainly the police department that deals with them.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Then?
Well, I heard you say if our ordinance was eliminated, that it would default to the state ordinance. What is the difference?
We went
Materially,
in 2014, and my main recollection of the difference is that we carried higher insurance limits than the state law required.
we require taxi drivers to carry higher insurance than the state law requires.
That was the sticking point when the board went through this the last time.
So I tried to find the state laws on taxis, and all I found was General Statute 160A 304, regulation of taxis. It seems like that would be the one. But really all it has is is just giving municipalities the authority to regulate taxis. I didn't see anything like specific on what those, like the state regulations. It sounds like everything in our ordinance, which is, the requiring the permitting by the police department, drug testing in there, logbook, all that would go away because the general statute just gives us the authority to have those things, right?
That's correct.
But like, a lot of these regulations seem very obsolete with Uber and Lyft.
Well, particularly if the Uber and Lyft drivers aren't being subject to the same requirements, then it would
Yeah.
be inherently unfair to might want to be a taxi driver. At least that's what it seemed to me.
Yeah, agreed. So, but just so we understand, it sounds like if we do forego the ordinance, because I guess as like Uber and Lyft drivers don't have to follow this ordinance. Right? They don't. So, they have their own internal rules, I guess, and regulations. But just so the board is aware, if you get rid of this, that does take away those regulations that are on our ordinances, which were
Currently being applied to one taxi driver who actually isn't even driving a taxi right now for health reasons. That
Right. I mean, when we looked at this in
seems pretty specific.
2012, I think we had 2 or 3. But I mean, we still don't have a ton of Uber and Lyft here, but we definitely didn't at all then.
My recollection is, but for one of those taxi drivers recently receiving a DUI while with a passenger. Especially with that, I think my recollection is that we probably wouldn't have kept it going in, but for the fact that it just happened. Concerned about that.
But if we do eliminate this, that means if someone wants to have a taxi in Sylva that's not an Uber and a Lyft, they have absolute zero. It seems like pretty much zero regulations, right?
For the most part, yes, sir. Other than the statute requiring the financial responsibility. And that's 20-280.
Is that the same one that Uber and Lyft drivers are subjected?
So they do have that. It's my understanding that's the same. Yes.
Do you need a motion for us to?
I just need direction. You can do it in a motion. Yeah, sure. Let's have a motion. That's safe.
Guess I have a motion.
Okay. We have a motion to eliminate our ordinance regulating taxis. Any discussion on that?
I don't know if it's the right time, but I wouldn't mind hearing your thoughts. You've been nice enough to chime in when we've asked questions, but it seems like
I don't think this is a necessary ordinance. I think there are many others that we need, from the police department's perspective, we need to look at and recriminalize. The state Senate Bill 300 decriminalized all county ordinances unless they specifically state that the violation is a misdemeanor. Blanket law, I think it's 14-4, no longer applies. Violation of ordinance is no longer automatically a misdemeanor as of July of 2 years ago. So that's something that, from an ordinance perspective, from the police department's perspective, that I think is much more germane than a taxi ordinance. Such as discharging a firearm within town limits is a big one that we need to.
you're not relating those, though. You're just saying there's other ordinances that you feel are way more important than this.
Absolutely.
Does this one have any bearing? I mean, hard to imagine it have much bearing considering we only have a taxi. Let's say we had more taxis, would this ordinance have any bearing?
If you had more, sure.
Then it,
You would need more, I would think you would want more regulation, more oversight.
I mean, keep in mind, there was a pretty high profile murder. It was Uber or Lyft related, 2 counties over, 1 county over, maybe recently. All that, county, I think, Haywood County, maybe.
Nothing prohibits you from having an ordinance in the future if the proliferation of taxis return.
I don't think it'd be returning. I think it'd be
No, I don't either, but
a new thing.
nothing prohibits you from doing that.
Sure, okay.
Okay, no other comments? All right, we'll have a vote then. All those in favor of removing the taxi ordinance, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of keeping it? No, none opposed, okay, motion carries. The taxi ordinance is eliminated effective immediately or when the codification occurs.
What do you think, Eric?
We can do it immediately.
Okay, immediately. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Butterbin,
Apologize for all the questions. Forgot you were trying.
I got 30 minutes.
6:30, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.